This is Karen with NewClevelandRadio.net, and it is time for What in the World with...
Hi, Paul Seaburn. Hi, Karen.
We must have gone to rehearsal today.
we timed that one right. I see you hugging your microphone there.
Yeah.
Feel it or?
Well, it's really nice. It's a nice microphone.
Don't stop doing that. It looks terrible. It looks for the YouTube people. We'll edit that out. No.
Okay. So what's been going on this past week?
Well, I don't know. I'm here with Karen Hale and John Dinallo over there. Hi, John.
Everyone. Hi, everyone.
Our co-host and trivia expert, sports guy, and all that stuff. What's going on this week? Other than baseball, a lot of stuff. Yeah, and we're not gonna talk about baseball. John has a really weird sport for us today, so we're gonna have some fun with that. What else is going on? It's another unusual week at What in the World and at mysteriousuniverse.org, my other job. We have, what do I have on my list here? Armed baboons in England.
Ooh.
And that's not a band. It sounds like a band name, doesn't it? The Armed Baboons. Yeah,
that could be a catchy band name.
Oh, yeah. It's the real thing. An Elvis impersonator from Norway who set a world record for something. We don't talk about bad news, okay, or the political news or the virus news and all that stuff on What in the World. We try to stick with strange news that's still fun. But I do have some mask news. So we're going to look at a couple of really strange masks that have appeared around the world that I think you can actually make your own masks like these. So, and then if you're hungry, I've got a story about some 2,500-year-old butter from Scotland.
It doesn't sound very tasty.
Well, we'll find out. So, and we'll go to India, where ghosts are throwing potatoes, which I think doesn't sound too scary, but it might be. We're going to find out. And from there, we're going to go to sports with John. Really strange, weird, the weirdest sport I've ever heard of, and it's right here in the United States. Karen, I guarantee you've never heard of this sport.
Hey.
Plus, you don't have a T-shirt from this sport. You don't have a hat. You don't have a bobblehead doll. I guarantee it.
No, nothing like that. Not even close. I think it's a good thing, actually.
Yeah, you're exactly right, John. You're exactly right. And then more stuff. As always, real news, sometimes strange, always funny. No fake news at What in the World. It's always real stuff from around the world. So without further ado, let me make sure I've covered every. Oh, and by the way, if you're new to us, please take a look at the rest of Karen's offerings at newclevelandradio.net. We have some great podcasts there. A few of us have moved over, expanded, I guess is the right word, to YouTube. So if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. Please subscribe to the channel. That's a good thing for us, and it's a good thing for you because you get notified when new stuff pops up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and take a look at the other stuff. Karen's the podcasting mogul of Cleveland, Ohio. She's got more podcasts than you know what to do with. Comedy, advice, music, Scrabble, you name it, there's something for everybody. And of course, at What in the World, the strangest news you're ever going to hear. So without further ado, I'm going to take a drink of water here because my allergies are starting to act up. So, John, say something.
Well, I think that...
that's enough. Okay.
All right, okay. Cut me off at the knees. I get it. I get the drift here. I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night.
I know. We Karen and I did that at rehearsal, and I said, I'm going to get John with this one.
You did? Oh, my Lord. Okay.
So anyway, I said we're not going to talk about the virus, but we are going to talk about masks. So this first story comes from England, where like some places in the United States, but not everywhere, mask wearing is mandatory. I think a week or two ago, Prime Minister Boris Johnson laid down the law. He says, everybody, when you're out in public, you must wear a mask. So this poor woman, this story is from about a woman who went to a mall and she forgot her mask. Now, there's $1,000 fine if you get caught by the mask police, I guess they are, without your mask on. So she improvised. And I want to show you the mask that she improvised with. See if you recognize it. Believe it or not, this got her out of a $1,000 fine. Let's take a look at that mask right there. Can you see what that lady has around her face?
Is that a crown like from Burger King or something?
You're close, Karen. That's from a KFC. That's
I was going to say, it's like a KFC box, right?
It's a KFC box. John, you're the lucky winner. Your prize is in the mail. That's exactly right. She cut the bottom. She goes to KFC. She goes to the food court and gets a box of, a drumstick and a thigh and some fries, and probably saw the mask police heading towards her and gets a grin on her face and pulls it over her head, and no fine. So
At least she didn't have to pay the fine.
What?
At least she didn't have to pay the fine, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. And now, granted, I'm not sure that it was the best mask. I'm not sure that it protected everyone sitting around her from the virus or from anything, from her bad breath, who knows what. But it worked. Now, I was thinking about this, and I have seen friends of mine, usually pretty late in, I guess it would be early in the morning, like maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, when we stumbled into a KFC, put an entire bucket on their head. But I don't think they were trying to protect me or anybody else from their germs. I think they were trying to get the crumbs from the corners after finishing the bucket.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But if you think about it, John, and I know you weren't one of those people, KFC could take advantage of this and really become a leader in mask improvisation would be the word for it.
Okay.
Especially with the buckets. So let's say for everybody who buys a bucket of KFC chicken, you get a clean bucket at no cost, and they'll cut holes in there for your eyes so that you can wear it over your head and it becomes your mask. Now, I think, what do you think about that, Karen?
It's a great advertising, idea.
Besides a great ad, yes.
Yeah.
And it would certainly cover more of a person's face than that box did for that lady. Right. But then I thought more about this because, that's what I do. I overthink everything. And I'm thinking, how would you eat with this thing on? You're shoving your hand up underneath it. That's kind of messy. So I came up with another idea. So for people who want it, instead of wearing it over your head from the open side, they cut the bottom out and you put it over your head like the dogs when they come home from the vet and the vet doesn't want them to scratch.
Yeah.
A cone. That's exactly right. Yeah. So now you've got this cone, this bucket with the opening up here on your head. And if you order maybe some popcorn chicken or something like that, you can toss it up in the air and try to catch it. And if you miss, it's okay.
It can become a new sport, Paul.
It could become a new, John, you hit it. That's it. It's a new sport. KFC chicken toss.
For lack of a better phrase.
For lack of a better, and trust me, that's the lowest bar that we can set right there.
Oh, boy.
So, now that you mentioned that, John, there's a store in Cleveland called B.A. Sweeties. I'll give them a plug, even though
I'm familiar with the company or familiar with the store. Yeah, sure.
It's a candy store, and it has candy from when we were kids, all the old stuff that they still make, but you don't see it at the normal grocery store. And they also have old games and old toys. And I believe when we were growing up, there was a game that was a plastic basket that you wore on your head, and you threw ping pong balls at the other person and tried to get it into their basket.
Hmm. That must have been
I
a
vaguely
really good
remember
game.
that.
Yeah, it was. I believe I saw it there. Don't waste a whole lot of brain cells thinking about that one, because we got more for you to waste your brain cells on. So anyway, so that's the mask from England. Now, speaking of eating with a mask, a woman in Australia came up with an even better idea. Not just for eating, but she did this because she wanted to be able to drink wine while she had her mask on, which apparently is more challenging than eating. So she took a container, a plastic container from wet wipes,
Yeah.
the wipes that you use with the antiseptic wipes.
Right.
She took that container, she kept the top, she cut off the bottom, and then she put elastic straps kind of connected to the top portion. I'll show you a picture, and put it over her ears, and it allowed her to drink wine. I'm going to show you exactly what she looks like.
Oh my God.
She could drink
Richard,
wine. She
you
could
have to see
drop the flap down and
all the-
drink wine, and then snap the flap back up, and she's protected from everybody else spreading germs her as well. Now, isn't that clever?
That is.
It is clever.
Yep.
That is ingenious. And so much so that there is now a shortage of wet wipes in elastic straps and thank you notes in Australia, because so many people bought it and they fell in love with it, and they've been sending her notes saying, thank you so much for coming up with that idea. So now we are promoting it in the United States. Not a bad idea, I would say.
I think we should make them.
I think so too.
Yeah.
We could make them with what in the world, maybe what in the world with that big opening in the middle that maybe we could put all of our faces on it. Or
Oh my gosh.
work on that, John.
I don't know, Paul. I'll get back to you later on that one.
So that got me thinking about wet wipes. Now, wet wipes weren't always called wet wipes. When they originally came out, they had an unusual name. Speaking of unusual names, there's Rich standing behind Karen right there.
Yes.
Hi, Rich. That's Rich Hale over there. How you
Rich.
do? Oh, he's got headphones on today, too. Either that or he's listening to music and just pretending to be part of the show. Yeah.
He's a space alien.
No comment on that one. Okay, so anyway, the wet wipes had a long name before they became wet wipes. I wonder if anybody remembers what the name of them was. Not a clue, huh?
Not a clue.
Remember, moist towelettes. Now, much harder to say. Yeah, remember that moist towelette? It used to come in a little package that said moist towelette.
Yeah.
So those were invented, believe it or not, by an American guy by the name of Arthur Julius, not the orange juice guy. He worked in the cosmetics industry in 1957 in New York, and he had a soap portioning machine, which divided soap into even portions that were applied to wipes of some sort. He bought one and took it home with him to his apartment in New York, okay? And then he played with it until he perfected the moist towelette, individually wrapped, okay? So now, and now you'll understand why I bring this up, as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story. So he trademarked the name Wet Nap because he didn't like moist towelette either. So Wet Nap is still around. That's still a name that's used. In 1958, he trademarked Wet Nap. And the best part, he got together with a mechanic who automated the whole thing. He made a bunch of these individual little packets of Wet Naps. He took them to the 1960 National Restaurant Show in Chicago. And who does he meet at the National Restaurant Show to pitch his wet naps to, but Colonel Sanders from KFC. And he loved it so much that he bought the whole batch. And in 1963, KFC was the first fast food company, really the first restaurant around to offer moist towelette wet naps.
Wow.
And rightly so, because they probably still are the greasiest food that you can buy from a fast food joint, that you eat with your hands and mess your face. That's why Rich, I'm sure, can attest to that. So,
I've seen that name at KFC. I do know that.
Oh, okay. There you go. Wow. Now we have clarification and verification, and we'll move on. So that's the story of wet naps, and they're linked to KFC. So not all stories today will be linked to KFC, by the way.
Okay.
I don't want to disappoint anybody. So now we'll move to Scotland, and I know, Karen, you've been anxiously awaiting to hear about the 2,500-year-old butter.
Yes, I have. Yes.
Yeah, this guy, I love archaeologists. I get a lot of stories from them, but they do some strange things. And they have to look in strange places. But this guy is looking at the bottom of a lake in Scotland, or a loch, as they call them in Scotland. Mm-hmm. As we have mentioned Loch Ness on our show multiple times. And he finds a wooden dish. And he opens it up and he realizes it's a butter dish, because inside is this stuff that he has analyzed. And it turns out, John, it's real butter, 2,500-year-old butter.
2,500-year-old?
Yeah.
How do they guesstimate that?
Well, they carbon dating, and they tasted it. I guess, I don't know.
No, I'm not asking for you to give me the answer.
Date on the wrapper, John. That's
it's a more rhetorical question, but I find that astounding.
Yeah,
I think dated the bacteria.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
It was 2,500-year-old bacteria. It was really had a beard, and so, talking about the Scottish. I'm sure somebody tasted it, because these are the people that eat haggis. So if you can eat haggis, you can pretty much eat just about anything. And we've talked about haggis on the show. I'm not going to.
Yeah, I think we should not talk about it anymore.
And the other thing is, they drink scotch. And if you drink enough scotch, you'll eat anything. You'll put a bucket on your head and eat the crumbs out of the bottom. So I think so. It's typical and predictable that this story came from Scotland. And I was thinking, how did they come up with butter? It's stuff from a cow that's kind of congealed. Who really ate this? And I'm thinking maybe it was a guy in Scotland who needed something greasy to grease his bagpipes, if you know what I mean. So he's using this stuff to grease his bagpipes, and of course, once his bagpipe is well oiled, he plays it. And his neighbors are saying, please stop playing the bagpipes. And he said, no, I can't. I just greased it. They're great. So they see this stuff, and the only way they know how to get rid of it is to eat it. And they find out that this bagpipe grease is pretty good. It becomes, in fact, that's what they call it. I can't believe it's not bagpipe grease.
Oh.
What? The first butter from Scotland, 2,500 years old. So I'm sure the 25-year-old stuff that they found tasted like bagpipe grease. And it looked pretty disgusting, Karen. You're right.
No picture.
No pictures.
Thankfully.
Per your request, no pictures. All right. So now this is my favorite story. We go to England, where there's a safari park. The kind you drive through and you see all these wild animals, and they tell you to keep your windows rolled up or the elephant will reach in. So this one apparently had a bunch of baboons. Well, apparently during the coronavirus shutdown, some prankster, we'll call them, armed the baboons. They armed them with screwdrivers, with knives, and they gave one of them a chainsaw. So when the people start driving, yeah, a chainsaw, John. When they start driving through, and all of a sudden these baboons appear out of nowhere, and they're beating on the cars with all these tools. Now, they didn't verify whether the monkey, the baboon, knew how to start the chainsaw. But even if he didn't, those are still dangerous things for a human, let alone a baboon. So, of course, they're turning this into a movie. Home Depot of the Living Apes.
Oh.
Who gives tools to a baboon?
No.
Who? No, I know, Karen. So, and you can imagine if somebody did this at the Cleveland Zoo, our beloved Cleveland Zoo, with Monkey Island and the gorilla facility and all the beautiful places where all the animals are. Somebody gives the baboons a chainsaw. What's the first thing they're gonna do? They're gonna cut into the concession stand and get some kielbasa sandwiches. That's the first thing they're gonna do, because the kielbasa sandwiches at the zoo are really good. Then they're gonna go to Monkey Island and they're gonna take that chainsaw and they're gonna free the monkeys from Monkey Island. Then they'll go over to the gorilla cage and give the chainsaw to somebody who can do some real damage.
Sounds like anarchy.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly right. Monkey anarchy, ape anarchy. So I was thinking, is there any monkey in existence or ape who deserves to have a chainsaw? And I came up with one, and that would be, and you don't see these too often anymore, but I remember when I was a kid, I know I saw them, I believe we've all seen them. They were called the organ grinder monkey.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a guy who has this box, and he turns a crank, kind of like a jack in a box, and music comes out of it. And the crank organ is on a stick, so he doesn't have to, so he can carry it around with him. And this poor monkey's on a chain with a little cup, and the monkey is forced to dance to the music while holding this little cup while people come up and put money in it. That's the monkey who should have a chainsaw. In fact, I have a picture, an old picture, hand-drawn picture of an organ grinder in his.
Okay, right, there you are.
Yeah, right out of some old newspaper.
He'd
So
cut
that's the
stick
monkey
underneath
that
the
needs.
organ.
What's that?
He'd cut the stick underneath the organ.
Cut the stick underneath. Very good. Thinking like a monkey, Rich. That's why we have you on the show. That's exactly it right there. Thinking like a monkey.
The other monkeys that I would think of would be the ones from the Planet of the Apes. Those guys would be dangerous.
There you go. That's right. So that's a monkey who, if there's still any of those poor monkeys around, and you see one, give them a chainsaw. You'll be doing a favor.
More chaos.
Yeah, more chaos, more anarchy, more ape anarchy. Courtesy of What in the World. Make
Yes.
sure you mention our name.
Yeah. Please don't.
Send all your hate mail to newclevelandradio.net.
Oh, thank you.
So anyways, we're just kidding. We're just kidding. Don't send your hate mail to us. So now we go to Norway. We're going all around the world today. So in Norway, there's an Elvis impersonator, which is funny in and of itself, a Norwegian Elvis impersonator. He broke a Guinness World Record. Now, what kind of Guinness World Record would an Elvis impersonator set, you might say? Turned out, no, I already said it for you.
Oh, okay.
I was reading your mind. He got set a world record by performing the King's songs for 50 hours, 50 minutes, and 50 seconds straight without stopping. Over 50 hours of nothing but impersonating Elvis. He wanted to go longer, but he started hallucinating, and he switched the verses to "You ain't nothing but a lutefish," and it disqualified him. Otherwise, he could have gone much further. But Can you imagine that? Why I can't imagine watching an Elvis impersonator for 50 hours.
No.
So yeah, he actually did it, um, and he went through the whole Elvis catalog multiple times. And I thought, the King's got a lot of songs, but he managed to go through the entire catalog of Elvis's hits more than once.
Wow.
So you heard Hound Dog, I don't know, who knows how many times. But
I would have loved to have heard 50 hours of Viva Las Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas in Norwegian, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of impersonators in Norway, the one I would like to see, they also have a Steppenwolf, a Norwegian Steppenwolf impersonator, whose only song, unfortunately, is "Bjorn to be Wild," but Bjorn to be Wild.
Yes.
Here's my rim shot. One of these days. So of course, my little. I'll take a trivia break here. Elvis impersonators. Okay? Everybody's seen them. They're everywhere. It seems like they're everywhere. You think that they started. Am I keeping you awake, Karen?
I'm sorry. You weren't supposed to notice.
So they
Came
think.
into the room and put her.
You would think. What am I thinking about? See, no, I now you got me yawning. So you would think that Elvis impersonators started when Elvis died, and everybody was saying, "Oh God, how are we going to see the King now that he's gone?" All these people decided to do impression. Believe it or not, the first Elvis impersonator started not long after Elvis started singing, in 1954. His name was Carl Nelson, and he was in Texarkana, Arkansas, in 1954. And he didn't sing. What he did was he danced along to the music of Elvis, and it was really only Hound Dog and Oh That's All Right Mama was out then, and Blue Moon of Kentucky. So he used to go to the radio station and he would dance to Elvis songs, and people would come and see him. That was the first Elvis impersonator. The second one was more well known. He was a 16-year-old named Jim Smith. And in 1956, he started impersonating Elvis, and he looked like Elvis. So he was really the first true look-alike Elvis impersonator. And he had a few more songs that he sang. Heartbreak Hotel was one that he used to sing on the radio. So then it's true. Once Elvis died, there were a lot more impersonators. Now, this is my favorite. This was a guy in Arkansas who had his name legally changed to Elvis Presley. Then he runs for Arkansas State Land Commissioner in 2014. Lost. Go figure. Then he runs for Arkansas State Senator, 2016. Lost. And then he runs for the representative of Arkansas in Washington in 2018. Lost. Okay, so keep your eyes open, because I have a feeling that Elvis Presley is going to be running for president out of Arkansas one of these days. But that's and one of them. Then there were a lot of famous Elvis impersonators. One of my favorites was Andy Kaufman, who was he played Latka on the Taxi series.
Mm-hmm.
And before he became famous, he used to do a really good Elvis impersonation, which I think he did on Saturday Night Live one. But in fact, Elvis himself saw Andy Kaufman's Elvis impersonation and complimented him and said it was it was the best one that he had seen. Of course, he hadn't seen that many. So, so anyways, and then there's a myth that Elvis himself, before he died, entered an Elvis impersonation contest and finished third. Yeah, this is a well-known urban legend. Turned out to be untrue. It was attributed to, and I love this, to Weekly World News, which was that black and white tabloid that you used to be able to read at the grocery store when they had that stuff available to read and you were allowed to touch it. Believe it or not, Weekly World News, they had actually contacted me. They're still in existence.
Really?
Really?
They have an online service, so they're looking for writers. So if this gig doesn't work out, I can always go to Weekly World.
Oh.
So, anyways, so now I have a survey. Speaking of, we're not doing politics here, but this would be of interest to you, and it's somewhat virus related. According to a new survey, during the coronavirus shutdown, there's been an increase in ice cream sales, but a drop in the demand for deodorant. Increase in ice cream sales, drop in the demand for deodorant, which explains Ben & Jerry's new dual-purpose flavor, Old Pumpkin Spice. Coming soon to a store near you. Comes in roll-on or drumsticks.
Ooh.
You like drumsticks?
No, neither one.
Well, I put that in there because I went to purchase some ice cream this weekend, and I happened to see the drumsticks, and I hadn't had a drumstick in a long time. It turns out the drumstick is almost 100 years old. It was invented in 1928 by these two guys named Parker, two brothers. They added a chocolate coating over vanilla ice cream and the nut. They packaged it. They didn't know what to call it. One of their wives said it looks like a chicken drumstick, and that's the name. So that's where the drumstick name comes from. I had never known why.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Huh.
So if you buy them now, they're owned by the Nestle company, which bought them in 1991. Still calls them drumsticks. But what I was looking for, and I hate to say that, I was looking for Eskimo pies, which last week, the people who make Eskimo pies, the Dreyer Grand Ice Cream Company, announced that they will no longer call them Eskimo pies because Eskimo is a derogatory term for the people who live in northern North America.
But I thought that was their nationality or whatever.
It's one of those gray areas, Karen, where not as serious as Indians or Redskins, and certainly not as serious as Redskin. It's a variation on one native name, but not all of them really should be referred to as Eskimos because it's only like one tribe. So rather than get into trouble, the Dryers people are just discontinuing the name Eskimo pie, which is too bad because that's also a 100-year-old brand. Some
things are just going away.
Yeah. It was. I know this was invented by a guy. Christian Nelson was his name. He was a school teacher and a candy store owner. Good combination, by the way. If you think about it. So he has his store in Iowa, and a kid comes into the store and he can't decide if he wants ice cream or a candy bar. And so Christian says, I ought to be able to help this kid out in some way. So he starts experimenting, and he comes up with, figures out a way to melt melt chocolate on top of ice cream on a stick, and perfects it and begins selling it under the name I Scream Bars. I Scream.
Oh.
Yeah, like the old joke. So he filed a patent in 1921. He got it patented, and later started franchising it. And he didn't know what to call it. So nobody liked ice cream. So he bought his chocolate from the Russell Stover Company. The big, you see their candy in drugstores and grocery stores all the time. So not Russell himself, but Russell's wife, Mrs. Stover, I believe was her name, looked at the thing and said, why don't you call it Eskimo pie? And that's the name that stuck. So it goes all the way back to Mrs. Russell Stover, who named the Eskimo pie. Not in a derogatory way, obviously, she just thought that it was a cool name. And it's been that ever since until here we are in 2020. 100 years later, the Eskimo pie goes away. So
What's the new name gonna be?
It's going to be
they haven't come up with it
Alaskan
yet.
native pies.
No, it's
Native
not.
pie?
Yeah, put that on a label.
Yeah.
They'll come up with something. It will
Oh.
it'll be the Washington pie.
Yeah.
Oh.
So while we're on a food theme here, I want to go to India for our story before we turn things over to John. And this is I love this story. I love ghost stories, but this one was great because it's about a ghost that was throwing potatoes at a man and his house and his family in India. So for those in the know, like me, the paranormal world, there's ghost and there's poltergeist. And the difference, you know the difference between a ghost and a poltergeist, John?
I do not.
Okay. A ghost is a spirit that can't really do anything except scare you. Poltergeists are able to move things. So they're able to levitate things. They can touch you. So you feel them when they're in the room. So that's the difference between a ghost and a poltergeist.
Okay.
Wow.
So this ghost,
That way,
this ghost,
knighted by the queen or something like that.
Perhaps.
You really confused him. You had to see his face, Rich.
So this particular poltergeist had the ability not just to levitate but to throw. So this guy, he lives in Shillong, 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 which means the abode of clouds, and it's in Northeast India. It turns out it's a very beautiful, beautiful town in the hills of India, which sometimes referred to as the Scotland of the East, for its hills, for its climate, and also because it has a really beautiful golf course. So you'll understand why I'm pointing that out in a second. So this guy, Mr. Thongi is his name, he heard knocking on the walls of his house, and then he hears stones falling onto the roof. So he thinks, they call them miscreants in India, the kids are throwing stones at his house. He goes out, it's not stones, it's potatoes and stones. So he calls his neighbors and they see him and they can't find anybody throwing them. So they verify it. He calls the local authorities, they see it. He calls the local newspaper, the Shillong Times. The reporter comes, he sees it, he can't explain it. So now you got all these witnesses to potatoes being thrown at this guy's house by a poltergeist. So I went looking because I thought, is this the only potato throwing ghost in the world? Turns out there's another one. You'll never guess where it's at, in Scotland. Yeah. So this is a famous ghost in the city of Ardgay, which is located in Dornoch, 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 in the Highlands of Scotland. I mentioned Dornoch. It means pebbly place, which means there's a lot of stones. There's one connection. Big stones. It's home to the Royal Dornoch Golf Club. Second connection, golf. One of the highest rated golf courses in the world. It's the place where the last witch in Scotland was burned at the stake, sometime in the 1600s. So there's an occult connection as well. So you've got, and a priest came out that when they had this incident in Dornoch of another house getting hit by potato, both inside and outside. Priest came and verified it and identified the ghost and told it to go away. So that would be an exorcism, I guess. So it turns out that back in India, some of the elders of the village came out and they said that they could communicate with the ghost, and they believed that it's a supernatural force that's moving through the area. So my thinking is that this priest knocked this ghost out of Scotland and it starts wandering around the world. And it just so happened to end up in a city that looks very much like its hometown of Dornoch in Scotland, where he's got stones, he's got potatoes, he's got a golf course, He's got beautiful rolling hills. He's got cool weather. He says, "I'm home," and starts excitedly pelting the house because he's back in Scotland. So somebody needs to go and tell this ghost that you're not in Scotland, you're in India, and point them in the right direction and get them back to where they belong.
Well, you could do that.
Oh yeah, I could do that. That's exactly right. The lovely Donna would love that. India is not high on her list of places she wants to go. Let's put it that way. Once the virus is over, there's not a mask thick enough to get Donna to go to India. Let's put it that way.
I agree.
And no offense to our listeners from India, but I think you get the picture. So now, so I'm thinking to myself, I need to challenge John Denalo this week with finding a good sport. And when I heard the story of a ghost throwing potatoes, I'm thinking to myself, I've never thrown a potato. I've thrown a lot of things. I've never thrown a potato. I wonder, though, if maybe somewhere in the world there's a sport that involves throwing potato. Probably not. And, John will never find a sport with potatoes in it. So I sent a little challenge to John. And so John, what did you come up with?
Well, it may be hard for everyone to believe this, but there is a sport that involves potatoes.
No.
Yes, it gets better. It's potato racing.
Potato racing. Oh, I didn't know they have eyes. I didn't know they had legs.
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Let me explain. Okay, so
Okay.
A potato race is one of several similar racing events where contestants compete to collect a number of potatoes as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Participants may run on foot or be mounted on horseback,
Whoa.
depending on the style of race.
Wow.
People play polo on horses, right? So, you're on horseback.
Well, Kentucky Potato Derby.
Well, unfortunately, it is unclear precisely where and when the potato race was originally started.
Oh.
It was mentioned by name without elaboration in newspaper reports and athletic events in a country we just discussed, Scotland.
Scotland. They were drinking scotch.
Well, maybe that
that explains a lot.
Maybe that explains it. Also, Australia and also Wales as early as the 1860s. So there is some connection with the British Empire.
British Empire and
potato racing. However, the State Fair of Wisconsin advertised a potato race way back in 1869.
Wow.
It is considered the year that professional baseball originated, and supposedly this state fair advertised this potato race that beats baseball all hollow, which I have no idea what that means. But obviously it means that it's better than or can exceed what you can experience and deal with in baseball. Here's what's strange, everyone. Okay. There is no description of the rules.
Oh,
there is none. We have weird sports that have weird commissioners and have weird alliances and what have you, associations. None. However,
it's a free-for-all.
Official rules for potato racing were printed in the 1902 Official Handbook of the Amateur Athletic Union of the United States.
This is official.
To me, that's a reach. But again, it's an official handbook. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you the direct verbiage from the book.
In case we want to play at our next picnic.
Oh my gosh. So, the potato race.
John, okay.
Okay, wait. But it shall consist of 8 potatoes laid 2 yards apart on a direct line. Okay. The first potato must be 2 yards from the receptacle. Now, they're referring to a receptacle. Let me continue on. If the competitor should drop a potato and placing it in the can, which is the receptacle, he shall pick it up before touching another potato else he shall be disqualified. After all the potatoes are placed in the can, the finish will be a tape 5 yards behind the can, and the receptacle shall be an 8-quart milk can. And in handicap events, the mark should be paid from the rear of the can. Now, I'm totally confused by this. Okay, and you know what? Here's the interesting thing. I don't care.
I was all set. This sounded like fun until the milk can part. Where am I
Well,
gonna get a
yeah,
milk
I mean,
can?
come on. It's contrived. I mean, all sports are contrived, of course, but this is unbelievable. Okay, so here
But
we
they
go.
still played it, obviously, in Wisconsin and in the British Empire.
Well, yeah, well, and then it even goes further. I mean,
Oh,
farther.
really? Okay.
Louisville, Kentucky, 1902. Again, the Courier Journal of Louisville, Kentucky, described a mounted potato race that took place at the Louisville Horse Show, remarking on its violence and knowing that it made a big hit.
Violence.
How can you have violence? Like, what gets somebody incensed enough to try to to create violence when you're dealing with these potatoes in some kind of weird thing? I don't get it. I just don't get it.
What were they throwing potatoes or running into each other on their horses? One thing for sure, I'll bet you there was wagering going on.
Well, wager on anything, sure. Probably gambling, a little gambling. But so
Anarchy. Okay.
Here's a respect. Let me offer this. Here's a respected piece of journalism. Popular Mechanics magazine. Okay,
Yeah.
well, relatively respected.
Yeah.
But this goes back to 1917. So an article appears in Popular Mechanics that says, "Racing to screw in a line of light bulbs as a substitute for potato races." Now it goes from sublime to ridiculous. What are they referring to here with this?
Oh,
I mean, I don't know.
That sounds like fun too. I could see doing that. Maybe take all the bulbs out of my house, and then have a race going through, screwing all the bulbs back in.
I don't know.
How would you bet on that? I don't.
I have no idea.
So what they're saying is that screwing in a light bulb was more fun than potato racing.
Yes.
Sounds like it to me. Yep.
Yes. And we'll wrap on this interesting subject. Wrap it up here. Okay. Writing in 1915, a feminist by the name of Charlotte Perkins Gilman described seeing a moving picture of a potato race on ice and remarked on a notable difference between the performance of men and women, which she attributed to women's restrictive clothing.
Oh.
Well, you got to think 1915.
That's so loaded.
1915, right?
Long
Life
dresses.
society.
Yep.
I mean, you're gonna have that. So,
But potato racing on ice. That's
well, I'll tell you what though.
John, you pulled that one. That one just came out of nowhere there.
Well, Paul,
Were they
again,
on horseback on ice, or
I'm just not feeling it. I mean, this whole subject, I'm not feeling it.
I love it. That's great, John. Way to go. Digging away.
I'll tell you what, clearly the most obscure sport I've ever heard of.
I think so.
With bar none.
Bar none. Obscure sport. Okay.
A new sexual thing on the websites out on the internet. It's called naked potato wrestling.
Naked potato races, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
You wrestle with the potato?
No, you don't wrestle with it. You race it.
Oh, you race with
They have
potato.
2 teams of naked women running around with potatoes.
Only my husband would find this on the internet.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just saying I'm putting it out there.
Oh, you're putting it out?
Oh, just putting it out there.
Oh.
I'm going to try to make millions on this.
Well, that clarifies it, Rich. That clarifies it.
I'm going to try and make millions on free porn on the internet.
Yeah.
Let me know how that works out for you, Rich, because I'll be right behind you. If that's possible.
Make it up in the numbers, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, it's volume.
It's volume.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, speaking of volume, we better get out of that one. So thank you again, John Dinallo, for those.
Okay.
Potato racing. I don't
Potato
believe
racing.
Potato racing. Well, you can bet, John, that somewhere around the world, this weekend, there's going to be a picnic where people are saying, what was that sport again with the potatoes? And they'll be playing it. Forget the potatoes, the sack races and the
Yeah.
Don't
Well,
use potato salad.
don't use potato salad. That's right. That's right. Okay, so I want to run quickly to New Orleans before we get to the left the
Left the co-host.
Left the co. I know John is anxiously awaiting, but I want to mention this for a couple of our regular listeners, Tex Chick and Steeler Girl, and the lovely Donna. When we lived in Houston, Texas, those three were the best of buds, and Donna and I lived in a subdivision called Oakwood Glen, and we used to have get-togethers over at our house because it was central to where everybody lived, and the three of them. We had watched this movie called The Witches of Eastwick, and the three of them decided that they were going to be the Witches of Oakwood, and they had names for themselves and all kind of clever little things. So I thought of them when I read this story that happened this past week. This guy in New Orleans found a witch's bottle, which you're supposed to not touch and leave it alone because they might be cursed. And I can vouch for that myself because. When they were over and I ever found a witch's bottle, if there was still wine in it, I did not pick it up because they weren't done yet. So I would be cursed.
You don't want that to happen.
Wouldn't want that to happen. So anyway, this guy, Shane Mears is his name, lives in New Orleans. And here's what he does. He's an amateur archaeologist. And he goes out to construction sites where new houses are being built. And right after they dig the hole, he jumps in the hole at night so nobody sees him, and he takes advantage of this hole being there and starts looking for ancient artifacts of New Orleans. So he finds Native American stuff, he finds stuff from the slave world, he finds stuff from the voodoo world, from the Civil War, and he brings it home. But one day he finds this bottle, and inside this bottle is a yellow liquid, some hair, and a tooth. So he doesn't drink it before you start thinking about it.
Good. That's good.
He does. He opens it up and smells it, and he thinks that yellow liquid, you can guess what he thinks it might be. And then he pours it out, and there's this hair in this tooth. He can't figure out what it is, so he Googles it, and Google tells him that it's a witch's bottle. So he's all excited because it's supposed to be, it could be a protective talisman of sorts.
Okay.
So he figures, okay, I'm safe. So he puts it on the internet. Well, internet goes wild because women who are witches say, oh my God, you never should have picked that up. 2020 is already bad enough as it is. Now you opened up a witch's bottle. You'll be cursed. We'll all be cursed. And then everybody else joins in, and they're going to hunt him down. They're going to find that bottle. They're going to bury it again. He goes, wait a minute. He says, guess what? I think I got one of the good witch's bottles, because it turns out shortly after he found the witch's bottle, he's also a fisherman, which is, I believe in New Orleans, that's redundant. If you're a man, you're also a fisherman. So he goes out catfish fishing shortly after he finds the witch's bottle. He didn't take it with him, but he felt that he was protected. He had an aura about him because of this witch's bottle. But what does he catch on his first trip out after finding the witch's bottle? An albino catfish. And if you don't believe me, there's a picture of Shane.
It's a big fish.
Very big fish, very big catfish. Catfish get big, but that's a pretty big catfish. And it's kind of whitish, pinkish color. Definitely not a normal catfish by any stretch of the imagination. So in his mind, he found one of the good witch bottles, not one of the bad witch bottles. And he's going to continue he put it on his shelf. I think he left the liquid out. Put it on his shelf. He says, I'm going to stay in. It's got me in tune with something. I'm going to stay with it, keep on fishing, keep on digging. And the one thing he said, and I really like this, I want to quote him, because, I made fun of him. I said, yeah, this is kind of a strange hobby, going out to construction sites in the middle of the night and digging. If that happened in Cleveland, I can't imagine what would happen to you. The least of which would be you'd get arrested. So, but you know, it's accepted in New Orleans. So he says he does it. He says there's something about it when you go digging. You're back in time in a time capsule by yourself, bringing these people back, these people who are forgotten. And that's why he does it. He finds these artifacts of people that may have lived 400, 500 years ago. And in a way, by finding something that they touched or they felt or they worked on, or the bottle that they filled, he brings them back for a little while.
I like that.
He preserves their memory. I thought that was a really nice thing for an otherwise weird hobby. So speaking of weird hobbies, we're getting to John's hobby, which is playing Bluff the Co-Host.
I'm all ready. Let's go.
Wow.
John is always ready for Bluff the Co-Host. I can't believe it. This is the high point of his week. So mine too. I enjoy trying to bluff Karen and John. If you haven't played Bluff the Co-Host before, the way it works is I have 3 stories that are very similar to the ones we've been talking about for the past hour, with the added difference that they may not be true. It's not the real news anymore. Some of them are, some of them not. Maybe 1, 2, or 3 that are true, maybe 1, 2, or 3 that are a bluff. Up to John, Karen, and the home office, the home listeners to decide. So, are you ready?
Yes.
I'm ready.
Okay, hands on the buzzer. Let's go. Story number 1. Pubs in Australia, especially those in the outback, normally pride themselves in allowing anyone to drink at them and will tolerate any and all kinds of bad behavior because that's Australia's middle name. However, an outback pub in far southwest Queensland has banned 2 regular customers named Carol and Kevin because they've been stealing food right off the grill, causing trouble, and going to the bathroom on the floor. The owner hated to do it because Carol and Kevin are emus whose mother abandoned them when they were still in the egg, and they've been raised by the bar patrons, the bar owner, and the locals until they became adult and they become local celebrities. But business is business, and emu poop is emu poop, and it stinks worse than a crocodile hunter after a week in the bush. So the emus have been banned. Good news, the owner says that Carol and Kevin can still eat out back. So
no.
emus in the outback that have been banned from the bar that they have been patrons of all of their lives. Kevin and Carol, they even gave them names. They're tourist attractions. The locals love them, but they're pooping on the floor. And even in Cleveland, Ohio, you can't do that. So what do you say, Karen? We'll go with you first.
I'm going to say it's pretty true.
Pretty true.
Pretty true.
Okay, that would have to be a true since we don't allow
pretty.
Yeah. 80%. 80% true, 20%. This isn't a weather report.
No.
It's either going to rain or it's not going to rain. Okay, so you say it's true. John, what about you?
I'm going to say it's false.
John says it's false.
Rich, what do you say?
I say 75% false.
75% false. So let's see. So Karen says it's true. John says it's false. Rich is leaning heavily towards false. That's two bluff, 1 true. Karen, you're ahead.
Yeah.
That is a true story out of Australia.
Australia. Oh my God.
Yeah, and they really do let you do just about anything except poop on the
You
floor.
met Carol and Kevin?
I've met Carol and Kevin.
Yeah.
They go to a bar in Brecksville.
Oh, great. Okay, well, we'll move on from there. So, Karen's ahead, 1-0. Story number, 1-0 to nothing, I believe. So, story number 2. A farmer in Vermont has never had to buy clothes for his scarecrows because clothes regularly fall from the sky over his farm. No, this isn't some weird vortex to another dimension. The farm is on the flight path for the Stripping Jumpers Parachute Club. That's right. Local exotic dancers belong to a club of skydivers who don't get enough thrills sliding down poles while stripping, so they jump out of planes and strip on the way down. The strippers double check each other before jumping to make sure nobody accidentally unbuckles their parachute instead of their top. The farmer thinks the feather boas and the glitter panties scare off more crows, and it sure makes plowing the North 40 a lot more enjoyable. So, the Stripping Jumpers Parachute Club of Vermont, which supplies a local farmer with enough clothing that he doesn't have to buy it for his now very sexy scarecrows. John, we'll go to you first. Real or bluff?
I'm gonna say real. I'm going real on this one.
Excitedly says real.
I'm thinking about it actually.
I can just imagine what Rich is going to say. Rich, we'll go to you next.
It's real, but I thought it was New Hampshire.
Is that of Vermont?
Yeah, the video you saw was from New Hampshire. I got it. Okay, Karen, what do you say? So far, we have 2 truths and 1 bluff.
You have the parachute on. How can you take the clothes off? I mean, you can't take the clothes off while you have the parachute on, right?
Have you ever watched people skydive? The videos of them.
Yeah.
They serve dinner while they're skydiving. It's the weird. I can't believe how many things they can do. So, stripping.
People having sex on their skydiving.
Okay, I'm gonna go with true.
Oh, so that would be 3 truths then. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Wow, that was a bluff.
No.
They can't take the clothes off while they're
Hey,
parachuting.
Karen, you were thinking
No,
logically.
backtracking here, backtracking. Sorry. Your answers are final. Once you put your hand on
we'll find that you're wrong on that.
Oh,
I think Rich is going to add this to the naked potato racing.
Yeah.
Or bathing. I forget what it was again, but in fact, I'm not going to spend any more time on it because I'll get into trouble.
okay.
So let's see. So that's so Karen is still ahead.
Yeah.
However, round 3 points are double. So
Okay.
you guys can still come back. Story number 3. Women in an exclusive suburb of Berlin have been complaining to the local police that a foxy female with good taste has been stealing their best fancy shoes from their closet. While a few slippers and flip-flops also disappeared, it's mostly fancy shoes that are vanishing. The women suspect one of their jealous foxy neighbors, and a police surveillance camera proved them to be half right. A video of the thief shows that it's an actual female fox that lives in the local park. The cops found and returned most of the missing shoes, and none were damaged, proving the fox was not stealing them as chew toys. The women were so relieved that they're actually setting out old pairs of shoes for the foxy fox to steal, but the cops have warned them that this may also attract some cougars.
Oh.
So,
Oh.
Isn't this the plot to that play that we saw at down at Playhouse Square?
What plot? What play?
The musical down at Playhouse Square.
No, I don't.
About
a musical with foxes?
Oh,
Yeah.
Kinky Boots.
Kinky Boots, yeah.
No.
I thought it was Kinky Boots.
So
Oh, so.
I have a question. Okay.
Oh, yeah, sure. Oh, clarification.
Yeah. So
Oh,
how is this fox getting into all their houses?
I didn't see the video didn't show how it got.
Oh.
Maybe jumped in the window through an open door. This was in Berlin, so and it's summer in Berlin, so they could have their windows wide open, to let the smell of
Rich,
cooking
you have to go
bratwurst
first
out.
on this one.
I do, huh?
Yeah, Rich.
Oh
go.
yeah, Rich goes first. So Rich, what do you think?
I'm going to say it's true.
True. Okay. So he says it's real. John, what do you think? Real or bluff?
Well, I'm torn on this one. I'm going to say it's true also.
Oh, 2 truths. Okay. Sticking with Rich. The guys have stuck together all the way through here. How about you, Karen?
I believe this fox is going in and stealing the shoes, and now they're going to put out old stuff for the fox. For the fun of it, I'm going to say it's not true. It's fake.
It's fake.
Yeah.
So you say it's a bluff.
Bluff.
Bluff. Well, let's see. I better look down here. That story's real.
Guys
Believe
won.
it or not, yes. Yeah, they actually caught it on video. The fox running. They showed videos of the fox running away with shoes. Very funny.
Then they wrote the Kinky Boots, the musical.
Yeah.
Kinky Boots the musical. I know. Kinky Fox, Foxy Boot. I kind of like that idea. I think that might be, or maybe a Disney movie. Because we don't want to have kids stealing
Fox in the
stuff.
boots.
Yeah, there you go. Oh,
Fox in Boots?
it's already been done.
Puss
Bummer.
in Boots?
Guys, I think we went a little overboard again today, huh?
Sorry.
Put overtime
Overboard, overtime. But it was fun.
Yes.
Always fun.
And, John, I can't wait to see what next week's sport is
Well,
going to be.
I'll kind of come up with something, Karen. I think we're at the depths here with this potato racing. It's got to get better.
We've set that bar high.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. It's fun to do it, as always.
Yes, as always. So thanks again to everybody for tuning in, whether you're on YouTube, on Spreaker, on Spotify, on whatever platform. Thank you for coming. Take a look at some of the other podcasts on newclevelandradio.net. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. That helps us greatly. And please come back next week. Thanks again. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Paul.
Everybody.
Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.